Hey Bob, how are you?
Hi Meg, how you doing this morning?
Oh,
Glad we're able to connect.
I'm glad we're able to connect. And as you know from having a history in Central New York, any day that it's sunny is a solid day.
Yes, it is. Out here in California, it seems to be 72 and sunny every day.
That's, I don't believe it. I don't believe that that exists.
It really does exist in Orange County, California. Trust me, it really does.
So I am talking to Bob Ulrich today, who is an alum of Bishop Ludden High School. And what year did you graduate, Bob?
Graduated in 1974.
Okay, 1974 alum. And do I have this correct that you have family members who also went through the school?
I have three other sisters that went to the school. We actually, my father relocated us from New Jersey, born and raised in Jersey as a kid. I moved to uh, Syracuse in 1970 when I was a freshman in high school.
Oh,
My
wow.
Yeah, so I never really had that grammar school experience in Syracuse. It was really down in New Jersey. So
Okay.
I walked into Ludden in October with my older sister, who's I was a sophomore, a year ahead of me, and then our two other younger sisters who went to Holy Family,
Okay.
and then eventually went into Ludden. That was Carolyn and Maureen. So
Okay.
yeah.
So yeah, I hear of your family name when we're in the school and having conversations about people, and that's been one of the interesting things about Ludden is it's like a family place. Everybody knows everybody. Everyone's got a bunch of siblings. They're all friends and grew up together. So Bob is an executive management and leadership professional who has one of those resumes that makes you think of the most interesting man. Those jokes that they make about, like, I can't believe that someone in this lifetime can live in so many places and do so many things, and that's you. So I saw so many different cities listed on there and experiences. So tell us a little about your kind of professional story.
Sure, it's quite interesting, to be honest with you. When I came to Ludden, Bishop Ludden High School, my freshman year, I came into the homeroom class, and a young lady turned her head around and welcomed me to Bishop Ludden High School. That's my wife, Cindy. Okay.
No,
Yeah, that's my wife, Cindy.
I
So
love that.
she's the one who made me feel extremely comfortable when I first got there. Coming from a new kid, I had a real Jersey accent, the whole thing, ball, car, coffee, the whole thing. And I come to Syracuse and everything's a little different. But yeah, we as we went through Ludden, and of course getting into my career following college, um, I noticed that my wife's parents were quite successful at a small business called Tupperware. And Cindy's parents, Frank and Edie, were one of the pioneers of that company back in 1950. Started around a kitchen table with nothing. Around a kitchen table. That's how it all began.
That's
Everybody knows
amazing.
about Tupperware, the Tupperware parties, the
Yeah,
whole thing.
yeah.
So it's sold in 100 countries around the world. So, you know, how I began in that, I became an entrepreneur with them first. And then the company noticed my skill set and brought me on as my first job there was a regional vice president. So I became a vice president with the company when I was 30. I was very young.
Yeah.
And that became my career for the next 21, 22 years, having many positions with that company on the corporate side, everything from a regional vice president to an area vice president to a president and managing director of South Korea, the business unit in South Korea, moved my whole family out to South Korea. So my first 22, 23 years with that company, which made us relocate quite a bit. I seemed to be the guy that would be asked to go into an underperforming market to
Okay.
help turn it around, to scale it, to build it. And it seemed like over a period of 9 relocations with the company, that seemed to be my pattern in my career from a leadership perspective. So
Okay.
it was an outstanding career. And then after that, I was with a few other companies, everything from a SVP, senior vice president, to a CEO company running a company out of Dallas, Texas. My last job was with a company out of Boca Raton, Florida. It was a
Okay.
coffee company, and it was a young startup, and we scaled that to a very nice place, and eventually moved out here to California to be closer to the family. That's
Yeah.
really has been my career.
Okay, so tell me this. Do During your career when you realized you had this niche and kind of taking something that was here and bringing it here,
Mhm.
did someone tell you, Bob, you have a skill set in this, or you have the attributes connected to this kind of success, or did you say, hey, I think this is where I do well? How did that work?
It was interesting. It goes back because I had an unbelievable father, my dad, who passed about 7 years ago. But he was with Allstate Insurance first, and then Nationwide, and he was in management. Okay, and I still remember being at the dining room table, doing my homework in high school, and listening to my father coach and guide and mentor his Nationwide agents. And so I got that at a very young age, and I listened intently. And my brothers to this day, my family to this day, say you have an incredible memory, because I remember everything my father said to his agents, to build that confidence, to build that self-esteem, to lay out that vision of what can be, to build a great agency. And so that was number one. And the other one was I was very fortunate to be coached and guided and mentored athletically by a Hall of Fame, well-renowned coach called Jerry Wilcox.
Okay.
Jerry Wilcox entered into the Hall of Fame. So I was his first co-captain on his first ever varsity basketball team. And my friend and good friend of mine, the other co-captain, Mark Farrell, was also the co-captain. And again, he's done extremely well in his life also. And so I had this father, I had this coach, and then the third component was I had the opportunity to really learn quite a bit from Cindy's parents, my wife's parents,
Right.
who built this thing from ground level, who gave me kind of this guidance of going from a corporate job, being in pharmaceutical sales first, to all of a sudden I'm working with an independent sales organization, which you have to inspire, you have to guide, you have to coach, you have to be patient, okay? And you have to help them go through those rough spots, those peaks and valleys that you have sometimes in a sales organization. Those three people, those three components were critically important to me. And again, on the basketball court, being a captain, being a
Right.
team leader,
Right.
that had a lot to do with my career as you build and mold and develop teams. You
Right.
always want to find people who are smarter than you in different positions as you become an executive.
Right.
I've surrounded myself, I think part of it was I surrounded myself with great people
Yeah.
over the last 30 years in every opportunity I've had in my career.
So it's interesting. I think that in high school, sometimes we can overlook opportunities to think that they might be, not that significant, like like being a part of a sports team. But is it fair to say that in those high school years, it is critical, it is very important to take over those opportunities, leadership roles and athletic teams with music that you actually have the opportunity to do?
Absolutely. And, it's when I walked into Bishop Ludden High School, I came to a foreign planet, I call it, coming from New Jersey, seeing the Empire State Building from my bedroom window, living in Rutherford, New Jersey. All of a sudden, I'm up in Syracuse. And when I came into the school, Sister Stella Morris was the principal of the school at that time. She was also critically important from an academic standpoint for me, because when I came in October, I had to learn a little bit different a curriculum. I had to learn a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and especially math. She was absolutely critical in me getting that I would say that foundation to graduate, with a Regents diploma, to graduate with honors in high school.
Yeah.
And I thank her, and I think there's a lot of other teachers and professors or teachers at that time that really made a difference for me. And growing up through the Catholic school system my whole life,
Yeah.
that was it was a perfect match for me. My sisters
Yeah.
coming into Syracuse and being part of Ludden.
Thank
It was
you.
that important.
Thank you for saying all of that. So you have children of your own, and when we first met, you mentioned you have 5 grandchildren, which congratulations. Parents are always thinking about things that when they're trying to decide about education for their children, or even as grandparents influence that. So what do you tell families who are thinking about a school like Ludden, pointing to some of these things that you just talked about?
Well, there's several things. First of all, number one, I believe you lead your life in these three components. You have to have a strong faith, you have to have strong relationships, and that's family, and of course, that support system when you go into your career. But you know, the part of Ludden that really helped me was at a young age. I was taught to be self-sufficient, independent, having the willingness to learn from others. But when we went to Ludden, there was 1,000 kids at Ludden. There was a 250 graduating class. So the relationships that I have built from the east side of Syracuse to the west side of Syracuse to the north and to the south, and all those friendships and those relationships in those different parts of the city
Yeah.
were critically important. And I believe that Ludden gave me this incredible foundation and prepared me so well to go into the next level and getting a college education. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for saying that. One of the things that my husband and I talk a lot about in our household, and I hear Kathy Gilhenny and some of the other leaders at Ludden talk about, is this word exposure, and how our children and students now have the chance to learn and dream so much more based on the exposure that they have. Now,
Mhm.
you've lived in so many different cities. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of different exposures?
Yeah. When you relocate your family 15 times, 15. People always ask me, were you in the military? I said, no, it was all my executive moves. Okay. But my daughters, all three of them, went to 4 different high schools.
Wow.
One graduated from the Seoul Foreign International School in South Korea.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
And
Wow.
so when people have asked me, wow, that had to be really hard for your kids, that had to be really difficult. There were components that were difficult, but the rewards were outweighed any of the difficulties that came. To use an example, my oldest daughter, when we're in South Korea and she's looking at colleges to go to,
Yeah.
and I started looking at the school she was looking at. I'm saying, do you really know where that is, Kaylin, in the States? I mean, that's in the middle of nowhere. And I'll never forget when she looked at me and she said, Dad, you prepared me so well. I can adjust and adapt to any location, any place, anywhere in the country. You don't have to worry about me.
That's amazing.
So the independence and to adjust and adapt to places that we have moved for the girls was, I think, believe it or not, to this day, because I look at them today in their own life being very successful in business. My youngest daughter's a yoga instructor, working full time,
Yeah.
getting her degree, the whole thing. This would not have been possible, I believe, if I didn't give them that world exposure of what's out there, especially living in another part of the world.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah,
It's
and for
amazing.
the kids today, in Ludden, it was like, as you go through your Ludden experience and go to the next level of college, and then you eventually get into your career. If you're ever with a company that offers you an international assignment, do not hesitate. Take it.
Yep.
It will build your skill set to learn another culture
Yep.
and also to learn a whole nother way of life. And it gets you so much more prepared when you do come back to the United States. You have this world experience
Yep.
that second to none.
That's really good advice. I'm being sensitive to your time because I know how busy you are, but if you have another minute, I'm going to ask you to leave
I have
us
plenty
with,
of time. I
okay.
carved out plenty of time here.
Okay, good. I'm going to ask you to leave us with a thought, and that thought is this. We work with Bishop Ludden on the re-engagement of alums to support the initiatives that the school sets forth. And there's no longer the days of the school just saying, hey, we need to raise money and we're going to do that. Now schools are really critical. Do we need financial aid dollars? Do we need to award scholarships? What programming is the best for our students and prepares them for the world? What do you say to students now who will become our alumni and to other alums around the importance of staying connected to each other and back to the school?
Well, the simple saying is you never forget where you've come from. Okay. And I believe that the experience that Ludden not only gave me, my family, and a lot of my friends have been critically important for their development in business and in their way of life, raising a family. Syracuse still is a great, great place to raise a family. That's where I raised my kids before we started to move in 1995.
Okay.
And so here's the thing that I would always say. I look at things in a worldly perspective a lot of times. I'm a big proponent on investing in our next generation. Always have been and always will be. Every time I see someone of power or someone in a political place that keeps saying we need to reinvest our dollars into the future of our next generations, education-wise, and yet sometimes you see budget cuts and you see this cut and that cut and this cut, and
Yep.
I believe it's up to us because you can anticipate those continuing on moving forward. So the donations, the private dollars, the financial aids, that messaging through our alumni has got to be so very loud and succinct that it's up to us
Yeah.
to make sure that we invest in our next generation, that we see our legacies continue. Over the years, I've come to many Bishop Ludden basketball games when I was coming home to Syracuse, and I would always see all my friends, and now seeing their own kids on the courts, okay? May it be volleyball, may it be girls basketball, baseball, lacrosse, football, whatever it may be, basketball especially, you would see them. That's the importance of the legacy. And this school has a history, a tremendous history of success, academically and athletically. And we really want to see that not only continue, but thrive.
Yes, thank you for using the words legacy, invest, and thrive. They're in my vocabulary every day when I speak about philanthropy, because it's not
Mhm.
just about a sponsorship or a gift. It really is about an investment, and the outcomes that are generated is the impact on the people that are coming after you and the people who will be our leaders. So thank you for saying that.
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Bob, thank you so much for taking the time to talk a little bit about your career. I think that students, my goodness, have any of us ever had more time in front of a computer right now?
That's right.
So,
Never before.
no, I
Um,
think the students are really grateful to see what people who have sat in the seats before them have gone on to do. And I think the alums are really enjoying, especially over this past year, kind of reconnecting with each other and seeing that the lively pulse that the school has. So thank you. Please also thank Cindy for all of your guys' support and for taking the time to do this.
can I leave just one more message for
Yes,
the for
please.
the for the upcoming graduating class and even future graduating classes? Um, Having a lifelong 3 decades, almost 4 decades of business, you've seen a lot of shifts and changes, and and what I get so excited about this generation and this generation moving forward is the power of technology. And the reason I say that is because I think there's a lot of people coming out today that they really don't want to work for Google or Microsoft. They actually want to create a brand that Microsoft and Google and Apple have. And today I'm seeing more and more young generation in their early 20s building their own brand,
Yeah.
because the power of the internet, the power of having a website, the power of building your own opportunity is never been more powerful today than it ever has been. And when used right, with websites and social media, and you have a global reach. So if you're looking at really creating your own brand, building your own business, it's never been more robust than it has been today. So this hope, this strong positive outlook of what this generation is going to bring,
Yeah.
not only from an educational, from a business, from environmental, everything, they have a voice, and they have a powerful voice, both men and women today.
Yep. So, kind of to recap some of your points here, take advantage of the fact that technology can connect you globally to the world. Take advantage of the fact that business opportunities can be entrepreneurial, not just fall within those 5 top brands that everyone knows.
Correct.
and take advantage of physically being in those different places and learning different cultures, languages, ways of business from people who, you might think are smarter than you, but you can learn from them.
Well, there was one period of time I was with an energy company, green energy company called Viridian Energy, and I was doing a meeting in Washington D.C. And
Uh-huh.
there's probably about 50 people in the room hearing about our company, and I saw these two young men off to the side taking copious notes and everything else, and it really caught my attention from a presenter looking and scanning the audience, who's paying attention, who's leaning in, the whole
Yeah.
thing, right? And I saw these two kids, and afterwards I sat down with both of them. Listen to this, Meg. They were both had master's degree from Georgetown University.
Yep.
They had interest in building their own brand of clothing using sustainable materials.
Wow.
They wanted to see what our energy company was all about, of sourcing everything from sustainable resources, wind, solar, water,
Wow.
power, and it really caught my attention. And I'm talking about, this is 2013.
Right. So,
Okay,
yep.
that's 7 years ago.
Yep.
So this is the face that I'm talking about, that you have these young entrepreneurs that really want to create and build their own brand, and they have the brights and the passion and the drive to do something to follow their dreams.
Yep.
And that's the message
Yep.
today. That's
Yep.
the message for my Bishop Ludden graduates, my Bishop Ludden alumni,
I love it.
how we can support the whole flock moving forward.
Yeah, I love it. No, once you're in the Ludden family, you're in it, man.
Yeah,
Everyone is connected. So,
thank
um,
you.
yeah, I love that. So, thank you so much. And I'm really grateful. I mean, my gosh, I'm learning, today from you.
We learn from others. Always. I never stop learning, right?
That's right.